got my patchwork done here. I think this will work fine. And because I'm going to be using screws when I put this molding strip back on, this was originally put on with probably maybe 1 1/4 inch screws. So they would have went in maybe about that far into the wood. And as I'm going to be using 2-inch screws, about 2 inch, I hadn't made up my mind, but they will go through this wood filler that I use. They'll go through it and like all the way back to here into the wood. I'm doing that because I think it's better to get back into the wood than to be relying on this filler to not crack and just pull loose. Although, you know, this is not really that flimsy. But and in that too, where this wood filler is, I'm going to pre-drill my screw holes. I'll probably drill them back about 1 1/4 inch or so, and that's because I don't know about threading a screw into this as it is. We'll find out as I go. But in any case, if it was a had-to situation, I would try just running a screw into this. But I don't have to do that here. I can use long enough screws to go all the way back here into the wood, and that's what I'm going to do. And I've got that molding strip completely off, and I got most of the old caulking gunk off of it. And I'm getting ready to clean it up and try to beat it and bend it and twist it back into shape and put it on. And now another thing I've got to do, I'll use a drill with a round wire brush on it to clean this off. I've already scraped it with just a putty knife, but I'll clean it up a little bit more, this side and this, and that's so I can primer and repaint it, get it ready to primer and repaint, and before I put the molding strip back on. I'm going to move the camera down here and show you the reason I'm doing this. You can see I've already where my door frame goes on, see, I'd already cleaned it up, cleaned it, primered it, and repainted. Just, you know, like 4 inches or so from the edge all the way around. Now that drip edge that's up there, if you can see it, that's just sticking in there. I put it there just to shed some water if it rained out from around the door frame, so it don't get inside and do the same thing it did before, you know. But anyway, that thing would just come right off. If I reach up there, it's just, I can just pull it off. But back to this, and the reason I'm doing it, and you can see here, I'd taken this pull handle and light, I'd taken it all the way off and cleaned it up, and did the same around it. Cleaned up, primered, and repainted around it and around this refrigerator access door. You can't see all the way over here, but it's all the way around, 3 or 4 inches all the way around it. And again, the reason I'm doing this, all of this, when I've got stuff off, is I can come back later and lightly sand everything else and then repaint it. But it's good to do this repainting while everything is off, rather than be trying to tape around everything and sand up to and paint with stuff like this in place. I think you can appreciate what I mean there. It's just a whole lot easier, and you can never get your new paint and everything right up to the edge of something like this very well. It's just a whole lot easier. Go ahead and take this stuff off, and in this case, stuff that I had to have off anyway. It's easier to just go ahead and take this stuff off and sand all the way to the edges around it and get some paint on and be able to put these back on top of new paint. And no, I'm not, I'm not a professional painter or anything. And but at least from 30 or 40 feet away, if I finish repainting this, it'll look real good. So it's a matter of what you think you need, But trust me, if your budget restricts you to this kind of a travel trailer, you sure don't want to be taking this to somebody and having a professional paint job done on it. It costs you a relative fortune. So anyway, that's I'm part of what I'm doing, and I've kind of just skirted around that as I went and not explained some things like that. But that's what I'm doing, and I would recommend to anybody that you do the same thing. Where you can, it takes a little bit more time, but all this stuff, the molding trim, and all of this and everything, it had the old, it's almost like modeling clay. It's old caulking, and it was really globbed up under there. Well, not globbed, I guess, but let me see if I can show you right here. Maybe you can see it in here behind this window frame. See that, and up here on top, there's still some of the, I didn't scrape it off yet, but let me just hold this camera up there on the tripod, and you can see this old clear silicone caulk that somebody put on to keep water from getting in around the window, and that's fine. But look at it. These are twist-in things, like for a tarp. The older instead of the rollouts or whatever, you stick the grommet on the tarp on here and then twist this to fasten it on. And they just put that old clear silicone around those two, and I won't argue if that suits somebody else. That's fine, but I would just rather do things a little different. Pardon me while I'm messing with this camera. But I just don't, I would rather go ahead and put a little bit more work into it and have it a little cleaner looking than that. I may use some of that clear stuff that I showed you that I used on the floor in there. I may start using some of that underneath, and then use the white caulk, or vice versa. Use the white regular. I'm using tub and tile white caulk, and use one or the other underneath to seal from water underneath, and then go around the edge. And in that, really, the white will look better, you know, to fill in around the edge. But it's kind of tedious to do. And as a matter of fact, I didn't do it around this refrigerator access door, but maybe you can see I used the white caulk around this, and that's partly it's good to have it sealed underneath here, but it's also good to put something on the outside to keep water from even getting underneath this at all. And as you can see on this, see that I haven't put anything around it yet, and I will. But because of this shape of this siding, you got a big gap here and then practically none there. And so that's a little tricky, and you'll end up with probably a lot more caulking on here than you really need, like up here. And what I do, I put a bead of the caulking around, and then I use my finger like that to smooth it down and push it in and make it kind of consistent. And maybe TMI, too much information. I don't know. But I'm just trying to deal with a lot of the little details that maybe somebody else might just assume you know. But the purpose of this is to try to help people that can't afford or don't want to pay to have something like this done by somebody else, to be able to have a pretty good idea of what to do. And so that's why I kind of go into a lot of details that maybe somebody else wouldn't bother with. But I'm trying not to assume that you know anything about this kind of work. So with that, I'm going to shut the camera off now. I'm going to get that molding strip on. It's Saturday, and by the way, my GoPro camera, the clock in it and date and time and everything was all messed up. So hopefully it's right now. I don't know if it even shows. But this is Saturday, the 11th of April, or 12th. And tomorrow, Easter, we're supposed to have some kind of nasty weather. So I need to try to get this done so I can hopefully get that molding strip back on before it rains. These things I'm not worried about. I can just stick them on there. I can have all three of these on there and screwed down in less than a minute. So that I'm not worried about. But that open edge where that molding strip goes is another deal. But okay, 15 minutes. See you next time.